36 years. That is how long it has been since this energy last touched the Earth. If you were alive in 1989, you remember how that year shook the world to its core. If you were born after it, you are about to feel something for the very first time. Either way, this moment is pivotal. It's because right now, in the hours following one of the most powerful solar eclipses of this decade, the sky is not settling down. It is accelerating. It is deepening. It is pulling something up from the roots of your life that has been quietly waiting for exactly this moment to surface. And on Thursday, February 19th, 2026, the energy that the eclipse cracked open on the 17th is still moving through you, still reverberating, still doing the slow and irreversible work of rearranging something that needed to be rearranged for a very long time. This is the day after the storm, except the storm has not actually passed. It has transformed. What felt like a sudden disruption 2 days ago is now settling into something you can almost name. Almost, but not quite. Because the sky on February 19th sits in that particular kind of charged stillness that follows a major cosmic event. The kind of stillness that is not empty, but full. Full of information, full of feeling, full of the quiet aftermath of something enormous that has just moved through your life and left everything slightly rearranged. Saturn and Neptune are now just 1 day away from their exact conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries on the 20th, and their energy is so close to its peak that you can feel it the way you feel a storm approaching before a single drop of rain has fallen. There is electricity in the air. There is something in the atmosphere that makes your skin aware and your intuition sharp, and your ordinary moments feel like they carry more weight than usual. Saturn entered Aries after spending roughly 2.5 years dissolving through Pisces. Think about what that Pisces transit did to you. It softened your walls, it blurred your edges. It asked you to release things you thought you needed. Some of that was beautiful. Some of it was deeply disorienting. And now Saturn steps into Aries, the sign of raw courage, of the self stripped down to its most honest impulse. Saturn in Aries does not ask what is comfortable, it asks what is true. And Neptune has been here waiting. It slipped into Aries in the spring of 2025, slowly saturating this 0 point with dreamy electric anticipation. Neptune and Aries is an unusual combination because Neptune wants to dissolve and Aries wants to charge forward. Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff with a parachute made of mist. You feel the pull to jump, the wind calling you, but the ground beneath your feet is already disappearing. That is the energy of this week. That is what February 19th carries in its atmosphere. The solar eclipse in Aquarius that ignited on the 17th is still open. Eclipses do not close in a day. They are portals, not moments. And February 19th is one of the most potent days inside that portal because the eclipse energy is still raw, still unprocessed, still doing the work of illuminating what it came to illuminate. The Aquarius eclipse cracked open patterns that have been quietly calcifying inside your life. Patterns in your friendships, in your communities, in the version of the future you have been building. And now, 2 days later, with Saturn and Neptune pressing toward their historic meeting at the world point, whatever the eclipse cracked open is being flooded with a question so fundamental it almost takes your breath away. Who are you building that future for? Is it the life you chose or the life you inherited? Is it the dream that actually belongs to you or the one you absorbed from people who loved you but did not always see you clearly? The sun moves into Pisces on February 19th. And this shift is significant. The sun has been in Aquarius for the past month, moving through the sign of the collective, the future, the innovation and rebellion that drives change. And now it steps into Pisces, the last sign of the Zodiac, the sign of endings and surrender, and the kind of deep spiritual knowing that cannot be taught but only lived. The sun in Pisces does not perform, does not strategize, it does not optimize. It feels its way forward through the fog, trusting that the next step will become visible only after the previous one has been taken. And this particular ingress, this particular moment of the sun crossing from Aquarius into Pisces is happening in the immediate aftermath of the eclipse and in the immediate approach of the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, which means the fog is real, the uncertainty is real, and the invitation is to trust something deeper than certainty. Mercury is still in Pisces on February 19th, and it is forming a gentle and nourishing trine to Jupiter retrograde in Cancer. This is the aspect of inner knowing, of wisdom that rises from somewhere beneath the rational mind. Mercury in Pisces means your thoughts are moving more like water than like logic. They are finding their way around obstacles rather than through them. They are arriving as feelings before they arrive as words. And the trine to Jupiter in Cancer means that those feelings are expansive, that they are connected to something larger than your immediate circumstances, that they are pointing toward home in the deepest and most essential sense of that word, not a building, not an address, but a feeling of rightness, a feeling of being in the correct life. And if that feeling is absent right now, if something about your daily reality feels slightly misaligned with the person you are becoming, that awareness is the gift. That awareness is Mercury and Jupiter doing their work through the fog. Venus in Pisces is approaching its conjunction with Saturn, which will become exact in the coming days. And on February 19th, that approaching conjunction is already casting its particular quality of energy over everything. Venus conjunct Saturn in Pisces has a quality of emotional maturity to it, of love that has been tested and proven, of relationships that are being asked to show what they are made of beneath the romance and the idealism and the careful presentation we often bring to the early stages of connection. This is the energy of February 19th for your heart. It is asking every significant relationship in your life to prove itself real. Not through grand gestures, but through presence, through consistency, through the quiet evidence of someone who is actually there when being there costs something. And if a relationship cannot provide that evidence, if it dissolves under the weight of this question rather than strengthening, then Venus approaching Saturn is also the energy of the compassionate ending. It's a kind of ending that does not hate what it releases, but loves it enough to let it go. Mars is still in Aquarius and still carrying the energy of the eclipse it was conjunct 2 days ago. Mars in Aquarius with eclipse energy running through it is restless in a way that is hard to contain. There is something in you right now that wants to move, that wants to decide, that wants to act on whatever the eclipse showed you rather than sitting with it for one more day. And I want to speak to that impulse directly because it is real and it is valid, and it is also something to work with consciously rather than react to automatically. The urge to act that Mars is generating right now is not a problem. It is energy. It is the universe giving you the fuel to move in a new direction. But the direction matters more than the speed. What the eclipse illuminated 2 days ago, what rose to visibility in your life during that portal, that is the compass. Let what you learned be the thing that guides where this Martian energy takes you. Act from awareness rather than from restlessness, and the choices you make this week will serve you for years. Pluto is sitting in early Aquarius, quietly present in the background of all of this the way Pluto always is, which is to say irreversibly and profoundly. Pluto does not announce itself. It does not send warnings. It simply transforms things so completely that by the time you notice, the transformation is already well underway. And with Pluto in Aquarius, alongside the fresh energy of the eclipse and the approaching Saturn-Neptune conjunction, what is being transformed in your life right now is not a chapter. It is an orientation. The way you understand yourself in relation to your community, to your future, to the collective you are part of, is being restructured at a level so deep that the surface of your life might not even look that different yet. But something beneath the surface has already shifted. Something about who you are in relation to the world has already changed. And February 19th is one of the days where you can feel that shift even if you cannot yet fully articulate it. Jupiter in Cancer retrograde is doing something quietly profound this week. It is asking you to look back before you move forward. Not to dwell in the past, but to retrieve something from it. Something you left behind in a moment of urgency or fear or someone else's timeline. A dream that felt too personal to pursue in public. A need you stopped naming because naming it made you too vulnerable. A version of yourself that you put away because the environment you were in did not have space for it. Jupiter retrograde in Cancer is the invitation to go back and collect that thing. To bring it forward with you into the new cycle that is beginning. Because the new Aquarius Leo eclipse cycle that opened on the 17th needs you to be whole. It needs the full version of you, not the edited version, not the acceptable version, not the version that learned to need less in order to be easier to love. The full version. And some part of what makes you full has been waiting for you to remember it. Now I want to walk with you through how February 19th lands in the specific rooms of your own chart. Because the cosmic weather of this day does not arrive identically for everyone. It's the same eclipse, the same approaching Saturn-Neptune conjunction. It's the same sun entering Pisces. All of it lands in different parts of different lives. And understanding where it lands in yours is the difference between experiencing this week as something that happens to you and experiencing it as something that is specifically and intentionally happening for you. If you carry the energy of Scorpio, February 19th brings a depth of feeling to your closest partnerships that is hard to ignore. The eclipse opens something in your 7th house 2 days ago, in the territory of the people you choose to stand beside at a soul level. And now with the sun moving into Pisces and illuminating your 5th house of love and creative expression, there is a quality of emotional richness to this day that could either deepen a significant connection or clarify that a connection has reached the end of its natural life. Venus approaching Saturn in your 5th house is the love that asks hard questions and deserves honest answers. Scorpio, you are not afraid of depth. This is your native territory. Trust what you find when you go there. For Aquarius, the sun leaving your sign and entering Pisces today creates a shift in your experience that is subtle but real. The past month of solar energy in Aquarius has been deeply personal, activating your identity, your sense of self, the way you move through the world as yourself. And now the sun steps into your 12th house, the most hidden and most spiritual space in your chart, and the invitation shifts from being seen to going within. This is the period just before your next solar return, the final weeks of your solar year. And with everything the eclipse activated 2 days ago still moving through you, this is the time to integrate rather than perform, to feel rather than explain, to trust what is happening inside even when the outside has not yet caught up. For Taurus, the sun entering Pisces activates your 11th house of community, friendships, and the groups you belong to. And with Uranus still in your sign, still squaring the eclipse point. The theme of which communities actually reflect who you are becoming continues to press on you. February 19th might bring a clarity about a friendship or a group dynamic that has been building for longer than you realized. The sun in Pisces in your 11th house asks whether the people around you are seeing the real you or a version of you that you have been maintaining for their comfort. Taurus, you are allowed to outgrow the circles that no longer fit. You are allowed to make space for the ones that do. Leo, your 7th house was the center of the eclipse energy 2 days ago, and February 19th brings that energy into a new phase. The sun moving into Pisces lights up your 8th house, the territory of deep intimacy and shared resources and the things that live beneath the surface of your most significant relationships. Something that the eclipse illuminated about a partnership is now being felt at a deeper level. Not just intellectually understood, but emotionally processed. Venus approaching Saturn in your 8th house is asking you to be honest about what a specific relationship costs you and what it gives you. Not in a transactional way, but in the most honest accounting of whether what you are investing is being met with something real. Leo, your light is not diminished by asking for what you need. 'Tis protected. Virgo, with the sun moving into Pisces and your opposite sign today, your 7th house is lit up in a way that makes relationships feel more visible than usual. What you give and what you receive, who you attract and who you allow to stay. These questions are right at the surface on February 19th. The eclipse activated your 6th house 2 days ago, shifting something about your daily routines and your relationship with your own body and the invisible labor you pour into your days. And now that energy is extending into your relationship house, asking whether the patterns of giving and doing and fixing that show up in your work life are also showing up in your closest relationships. Virgo, the most important boundary you will ever set is not with a difficult person, but with your own habit of making yourself smaller so others feel more comfortable. Gemini, the sun entering Pisces activates your 10th house of career and public life, and the legacy you are actively building. February 19th brings a quality of emotional depth to your professional world that Gemini energy does not always naturally sit with. You process quickly, communicate brilliantly, move between ideas with a speed that others often cannot match. But the sun in Pisces in your 10th house is asking you to slow down enough to feel what you actually want your work in the world to mean. Not just what it accomplishes, but what it expresses. Not just what it earns, but what it says about who you are. Mercury trining Jupiter retrograde is giving your intuition unusual clarity about your direction right now. Gemini, the insight that comes through in a quiet moment today might be the most important professional guidance you receive all year. Cancer, the sun moving into Pisces, lights up your 9th house of beliefs and philosophy, and the larger frameworks through which you understand your place in the world. February 19th brings an expansion of perspective that feels almost spiritual in its quality. Jupiter retrograde in your own sign is already pulling you inward, already asking you to revisit what growth really looks like from the inside. And the sun in Pisces in your 9th house adds a quality of openness, of willingness to revise a belief that you have been holding as settled because it was given to you rather than chosen by you. Cancer, you are allowed to change your mind about what you believe, especially when the belief was built to protect you and you no longer need that particular protection. Sagittarius, the sun entering Pisces activates your 4th house today, the most private and foundational space in your entire chart. The house of home and roots and the emotional inheritance you carry from the family and history that shaped you. February 19th brings something to the surface in this private territory that Sagittarius does not always give enough space to, which is the need to belong. Not to a philosophy or an adventure or a future destination, but to a place, to a person, to a feeling of safety that does not require constant movement to sustain. Saturn and Neptune approaching their conjunction in your 5th house are asking you to get honest about your creative and romantic life, about which parts of it are genuinely alive and which parts you have been performing, because being free and unattached has been part of your identity for so long that you are not entirely sure where the truth ends and the story begins. Libra, the sun moving into Pisces lights up your 6th house today. And the themes of health and daily routine and the way you organize your energy across an ordinary day become more prominent. February 19th has a quality of reassessment to it for you. A gentle but persistent invitation to look at how you are spending yourself and whether the distribution makes sense. Venus approaching Saturn in your 6th house is asking whether your habits of care and giving and making everything harmonious and beautiful for the people around you are leaving enough behind for your own nourishment. Libra, you know how to maintain balance for everyone else. This week is asking you to include yourself in that equation with the same generosity you extend to the rest of the world. Capricorn, the sun entering Pisces activates your 3rd house today. The house of communication and daily conversation and the stories you tell yourself and others about who you are and what your life means. February 19th might bring a conversation that carries more weight than it appears to on the surface. Or it might bring a moment of internal clarity about something you have been saying to yourself for years that is no longer serving you. Saturn approaching its conjunction with Neptune in your 4th house of foundations is doing deep structural work on the most private level of your life. Something about the ground you are building from, something about the inherited blueprint you have been following is dissolving in order to be rebuilt with more honesty and more alignment to who you actually are, rather than who the blueprint told you to be. Pisces, the sun enters your sign today. Happy solar return season. And what a moment for the sun to arrive in your sign. In the immediate aftermath of a solar eclipse, approaching a historic Saturn-Neptune conjunction, with Mercury and Venus already swimming through your waters and bringing every experience you have to a heightened emotional depth. The Sun in Pisces on February 19th is coming home. It is the annual moment when the universe directs its full solar attention toward your sign, your energy, your particular way of moving through the world. And this year, that arrival comes loaded with cosmic significance. What are you becoming, Pisces? Not what are you releasing, not what are you ending, but what is emerging in the space that the endings create. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction in your second house is building a new foundation for your relationship with your own worth, your own resources, your own capacity to receive. Let the sun coming home to your sign be the signal that it is safe to need things now. It is safe to want things. It is safe to take up the space that has always been yours. And Aries, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction is landing in your first house tomorrow. And February 19th is the day before that culmination, which means you are standing in the threshold. You are in the doorway between what you were and what you are becoming. And that threshold is one of the most uncomfortable and most sacred places a human being can stand. You can feel both realities simultaneously, the old self and the new one, the old story and the emerging truth, the identity that has carried you this far and the one that is trying to be born. Saturn and Neptune are doing their work directly on your sense of self, directly on the image you have of who you are and who you are allowed to be. And February 19th is the day to stand in that discomfort without rushing through it. Because the people who learn to be present in the threshold are the ones who walk out the other side of it changed in ways that are permanent and profound and entirely their own. What the sky is doing this week is not a small thing. It is not the ordinary rhythm of planetary movement that astrologers track with mild interest. It is the kind of convergence that happens once in decades, sometimes once in a lifetime, sometimes longer. The annular solar eclipse in Aquarius opening a new 18-month cycle across the axis of identity and community. Saturn and Neptune converging at the world point for the first time in 36 years. The Sun moving from Aquarius into Pisces on the very day before that conjunction becomes exact. Mercury and Venus swimming through the most intuitive and feeling-oriented sign in the Zodiac. Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, pulling wisdom up from the deep. Mars still electrified by the eclipse energy it was conjunct 2 days ago. Pluto quietly and irrevocably transforming the architecture of your relationship with the collective. All of it together, all at once, all in the span of just a few days, is the cosmos speaking with a clarity and an urgency that is almost impossible to miss if you are paying any attention at all. February 19th is not the day of the main event. It is the day inside the event. It is the day where the eclipse is still working and the conjunction is still approaching and the sun is changing signs and the atmosphere is charged with the particular electricity of things that are genuinely in motion. It is the day where, if you slow down enough to feel what is actually happening, rather than rushing to process it or contain it or explain it, you will receive information about your own life that no book and no chart and no forecast could have given you. Because the most powerful astrology is always the kind that meets something in you that was already true before the planets arranged themselves into their pattern. The planets do not create your reality. They illuminate it. They time it. They give the unconscious permission to surface. And February 19th, sitting where it sits inside one of the most cosmically charged weeks of this entire year, is giving that permission now. Whatever is surfacing for you today, let it surface. Whatever is becoming clear, let it be clear without immediately reaching for the impulse to manage or fix or explain. Whatever you are feeling in the aftermath of the eclipse and in the approach of this historic Saturn-Neptune conjunction, those feelings are data. They are the most accurate map of where you actually are and where you actually need to go. Trust them, and trust that the universe, which has been arranging this particular convergence of energies for 36 years, knows exactly what it is doing. It is not working against you. It never was. It is working through you. It is working to bring forward the version of you that is most aligned with who you were always meant to become. And this week, that process is not beginning and it is not ending. It is arriving at exactly the moment it was always supposed to arrive, right now, right here. In the life you are living, in the person you already are.